Have you ever felt stuck at a crossroads in your relationship? Torn between holding on and letting go? That unsettling space between hope and surrender? Wondering if what you're feeling is real or just wishful thinking? Maybe the universe is trying to tell you something about that one person you can't seem to forget. But there's a big difference between chasing a fleeting romantic impulse and recognizing when the universe is genuinely nudging you not to give up on someone. The problem is, most people confuse false signs with true ones, mistaking toxic attachment for genuine love. Carl Jung spent decades studying how our unconscious mind sends us signals our conscious mind doesn't fully understand. Unlike all the vague romantic advice floating around, Jung taught that there's a specific language our soul uses to guide us through relationships that still serve a deeper purpose in our lives. In this video, you're going to learn the 13 psychological signs that the universe might actually be asking you to hold on to someone. These aren't fluffy ideas dressed up as spiritual insight. These are real, psychology-backed indicators you can spot and use to make wiser decisions about your relationships. Ignore these signs, and you could be walking away from a growth opportunity that goes far beyond traditional romance. We're talking about relationships that serve as launch pads for personal transformation. So, stay with me till the end, because you're going to gain practical tools that could completely shift how you see that person and yourself. Picture this. You're in the middle of a heated argument, the kind that feels impossible to resolve. You're exhausted, angry, thinking it would be so much easier to just walk away. But then something strange happens. A wave of calm washes over you. It's not resignation or defeat. It's a deep, quiet peace whispering that you'll find a way through this together. That's sign 1. When you feel an inexplicable peace even in the chaos. Jung called this the feeling of inner truth. A direct signal from the self that you're on the right path. It's not about ignoring problems or pretending everything's okay. It's a deep knowing that this turbulence is part of a larger process. The difference between this real peace and attachment disguised as calm is subtle but crucial. Attachment makes you anxious inside, even when you try to convince yourself you're fine. But true peace, the kind the universe sends, is steady, even in uncertainty. You don't need to control the outcome because you trust the process. Jung found that the unconscious speaks to us through feelings that go beyond logic. When a relationship has spiritual purpose, your internal compass sends out signals of calm, even in the storm. It's the difference between a storm that's going to sink your ship and one that's making you a better sailor. If you've ever felt that strange peace in the middle of chaos, pay attention. The universe might be saying you two still have unfinished business. Sign 2 is when the relationship pushes you to grow in ways you didn't even know you needed. Jung understood that every deep bond activates our shadow, those parts of ourselves we'd rather not face. And when the universe wants two people to stay connected, it uses that shadow work as a catalyst for mutual transformation. Think of a moment when this person triggered a reaction in you no one else ever has. Maybe it's a flash of impatience you didn't know you had, or an insecurity that stayed buried with other partners. At first it feels like a red flag, like maybe you're just not compatible. But often, it's the opposite. This person becomes an unconscious spiritual teacher, reflecting the exact places you need to grow. It's like the universe sent them to shine a spotlight on your blind spots. And what's even more fascinating, you often awaken each other's shadows in complementary ways. Jung used the metaphor of a cracked mirror to explain this. The cracks show where the light needs to get in, where healing and integration must happen. When someone breaks you in specific ways, they're revealing wounds that were already there, just hidden. It's uncomfortable, but it's transformative. You start facing fears you didn't know you had, developing strengths that were lying dormant, learning to deal with parts of human nature that used to scare you. It's rapid growth, as if being around this person activates a crash course in becoming a fuller version of yourself. If this relationship is challenging you to grow into someone wiser, more self-aware, more whole, the universe might be pointing to a deeper purpose behind your connection, one that goes beyond just romance. Sign 3 shows up when your dreams won't let it go, even if your conscious mind already has. Carl Jung devoted much of his work to understanding the compensatory function of dreams, especially in relationships with deep archetypal meaning. In the dream world, the social masks fall away and the unconscious can speak freely. When the universe wants you to focus on a specific connection, dreams become its loudspeaker. They show up again and again like a persistent reminder. There's something unresolved, something you need to understand or integrate. A common pattern is dreaming about the lost partner, scenarios where you're together in a completely different context than real life. But there's a deep, natural familiarity, as if you're two halves of a whole that recognize each other beyond external circumstances. Sometimes you're solving problems together, other times you're simply coexisting in harmony. The exact details matter less than the feeling you wake up with. An unshakable sense that the two of you make sense on a level that transcends waking life complications. Jung believed that recurring dreams about a specific person meant they represented something archetypal within your psyche, a psychological function that still needs to be integrated, or a part of your individuation process that remains unfinished. The unconscious doesn't waste energy on random dreams. When someone shows up again and again, especially during times of doubt about the relationship, it might be the universe saying, "Look closer. There's something here you haven't fully seen yet." Pay attention not just to how often the dreams occur, but to the emotional tone they carry. If you wake up feeling whole or haunted by a beautiful kind of nostalgia, that might be the cosmos whispering that there are still unwritten chapters in that connection. It's been 3 months since you broke up. You were finally starting to move on. Then, on Thursday, while thinking about her during lunch, your phone rings. It's her. On Friday, you accidentally bump into each other at the cafe you both used to visit. On Saturday, you find out you're both invited to the same party. And on Monday, a mutual friend randomly mentions her name in a totally unrelated conversation. That's sign 4, when synchronicities between you defy logical explanation. Carl Jung defined synchronicity as meaningful coincidences, events that aren't causally connected but feel profoundly significant to those who experience them. These moments emerge when two people are energetically linked in a way that goes beyond the physical. Jung believed we move closer to individuation, becoming our true selves, when we start to notice and honor these synchronicities. And when they consistently involve a particular person, it might be a sign you share an intertwined destiny. Relational synchronicity isn't about chasing signs or turning every coincidence into a mystical message. It's about recognizing truly improbable patterns that feel orchestrated by something higher, like when you both think of each other at the exact same moment, and one of you acts on it. When the world keeps nudging you into the same spaces, even when you're trying to pull away, the universe speaks through synchronicity. It's like it's saying, "Pay attention. You're part of the same cosmic storyline." These moments serve as gentle nudges, reminding you there's more going on beneath the surface. Jung noticed synchronicities spike during periods of major life transition, especially when we're at crossroads. So, if you're wrestling with whether to fight for this relationship or finally let it go, and synchronicities start popping up everywhere, it might be the cosmos answering the question your heart's too scared to ask aloud. And the emotional quality of these coincidences matters too. If they leave you thinking, "Of course that happened," like it was scripted by some invisible hand, listen closely. The universe might be hinting that there's still sacred work for the two of you to do, soul to soul. Before this person came into your life, it was easier to keep things polished. You could manage your impulses, hide your insecurities, and present a curated version of yourself to the world. But now, in their presence, your flaws surface with an intensity that sometimes frightens you. And that's exactly sign 5. When your flaws come out, and strangely, it's a good thing. Jung understood that real relationships don't just comfort us, they confront us. They awaken the shadow, not to break us down, but to show us what still needs to be healed and accepted within ourselves. This person becomes a mirror for your rawest parts. Maybe you discover a possessiveness you never knew you had, or realize that your fierce independence masks a deep fear of being abandoned. Maybe your usual calm unravels in response to triggers only they seem to activate. The instinct is to label this as incompatibility. If they bring out the worst in me, this must be toxic. But Jung suggested the opposite. When someone consistently triggers your shadow, it might be because the universe is using that connection as a crucible for psychological integration. Projecting your shadow onto a partner creates rare chances for healing. Instead of continuing to deny those darker traits, you're forced to face them, understand them, and eventually integrate them consciously. What first feels destructive often turns out to be deeply reconstructive. When you stop blaming the other person for bringing out your worst and start viewing those moments as invitations to self-awareness, something powerful shifts. You develop compassion for your own flaws, and by extension, for the flawed humanity in others. The relationship becomes a lab for mutual growth. If this person consistently triggers parts of you that need attention and integration, if their presence demands brutal honesty with yourself, the universe might be signaling that your connection holds a purpose of healing and evolution beyond romantic attraction. The key is in the quality of this activation. If it leads only to chaos, it might truly be toxic. But if deep down you feel like you're becoming more whole, more honest, even if it's uncomfortable, it could be a gift in disguise. It's been months since you last spoke. You've rebuilt your life, found new routines, maybe even started seeing other people. In theory, you've moved on. But something lingers. No matter what you do, you can't fully release the energy of that connection. It's as if some invisible part of you is still magnetically drawn to them, regardless of physical or emotional distance. Sign 6 is when you can't fully let go. Not out of neurotic attachment, but because there's an active energetic field that remains between you. Jung made a distinction between emotional dependence, rooted in fear and lack, and archetypal connections, which transcend individual personality and tap into deeper dynamics of the psyche. There's a subtle but crucial difference between being stuck because of attachment and staying connected because something real still binds you. Attachment brings anxiety, a need to control, obsessive efforts to reconnect. Energetic connection, on the other hand, brings a strange kind of longing, but without panic. It's as if some part of you knows, when the time is right, you'll cross paths again. This energy can show up in many forms. Maybe you feel their presence at specific moments, as if they're thinking of you. Or you get sudden urges to reach out, only to later find out something major was happening in their life at that exact time. It's like there's an open channel between you that external circumstances can't close. Jung explored the idea that some connections exist on what he called the archetypal plane, a layer of reality where two people represent complementary psychological forces, necessary to each other's individuation journey. In these cases, physical separation doesn't dissolve the energetic bond, because it never depended on proximity to begin with. Some spiritual traditions call this a karmic connection, the notion that two souls have unfinished business and will keep circling back until the work is done. Whatever language you choose, the experience is real. Some people remain energetically present in our lives, long after they're gone physically. If this person still occupies an energetic space in you that no one else can fill, if the connection feels alive on a subtle level, even after months or years apart, the universe might be hinting that your story together isn't over. Maybe you can't explain it. Maybe you can't even put it into words. But there's something that only makes sense when the two of you are together. A shared mission. A dream. A vision neither of you can manifest alone. It's like two puzzle pieces from the same cosmic design finding each other. Sign number 7 is when there's a shared purpose, even if you haven't fully uncovered what it is. Jung studied the archetype of the creative couple. Dynamics where two people together generate something greater than the sum of their parts. Like Eros and Psyche, symbolizing the union of earthly love and spiritual wisdom. Or Shiva and Shakti, embodying the cosmic dance between consciousness and creative energy. That purpose doesn't have to be grand or public. It might be raising a family with a unique dynamic, building a shared project, or simply embodying a kind of love that inspires others. What matters is that both of you feel more aligned, more tapped in when you're together. Sometimes that purpose shows up as parallel dreams that emerged independently. Other times it's a constant sense that we're supposed to be doing something together, even if you can't define it yet. It's a creative restlessness that only calms when you're collaborating in some way. It feels like your paths were never meant to run separately forever. They intersected to bring something new into being. Jung believed some people meet not just for personal growth, but to serve something bigger, whether it's art, service, or a love story the world needs to witness. When two people share an archetypal purpose, synchronicities often intensify around that mission. Opportunities arise only when you're together. Ideas spark only in each other's presence. Doors open magically when you move as a team. You might not know exactly what this purpose is yet, but if there's a persistent sense that you make sense on a level beyond the personal, if together you unlock a frequency of creativity or meaning that neither of you can reach alone, the universe may be signaling that you have joint work to do. And often this comes with an eerie certainty. No matter how many times you part, you'll keep finding each other again. Until that purpose is revealed and fulfilled. You decided to avoid her, switched gyms, changed your commute, even stopped going to places where you knew there was a chance of running into her. But life seems to have other plans. A week later, she shows up at a party hosted by a friend neither of you knew you had in common. The following month, you're both reassigned to the same project at work. And just when you finally agree to a date with someone new, guess who's seated at the next table? Sign number 8 is when life keeps pulling you back together, creating encounters that feel orchestrated by forces beyond your control. Jung noticed that when fate repeats itself in unlikely ways, it often means there's something in the unconscious that hasn't yet been acknowledged or resolved. These unexpected reunions carry a distinct energy. They don't happen randomly. They tend to occur at meaningful times, when one of you is going through a transition, facing a tough decision, or has finally found some peace about the whole situation. It's like the universe has a very specific sense of timing. These moments don't show up when you're clinging to the past, but when you've surrendered, when you've genuinely made peace with the separation. And it's at that point, with no expectations, that life opens a door to reconnect on a different frequency. What's fascinating is that these moments often reveal parallel growth. You notice that both of you have evolved in synchrony, even without contact. It's as if the time apart was divinely designed to prepare you for a new level of connection. Jung saw repetitive patterns, not as coincidences, but as messages. Signs from your psyche trying to bring something essential into awareness. When two people keep crossing paths despite conscious efforts to stay apart, it might mean there's still a cycle of learning that needs to be completed. And the energetic quality of these reunions matters. If they carry that "of course this happened" feeling, if reconnecting feels effortless, as though the time apart was just a necessary pause, then maybe, just maybe, the universe is signaling there's still unfinished soul work between you. When life keeps creating moments of reconnection, even as you try to move on, it might be time to consider that there's a higher intelligence weaving those encounters for a reason you're only beginning to grasp. With other people, you feel the need to perform. To filter your energy, carefully choose your words, hide certain sides of yourself to feel accepted. But with this one person, something different happens. You feel free, unfiltered, fearless, just fully you. Sign number 9 is when you feel more like yourself around the other person. Jung drew a line between dependency, where you lose your sense of self in the relationship, and true catalytic connection, where the other person awakens your most authentic nature. It's like they hold a key that unlocks dimensions of you that lie dormant in other relationships. This is not about molding yourself to fit someone else. Quite the opposite. It's their presence that allows you to expand into who you truly are. They create an energetic space where your raw self doesn't just feel safe, it naturally emerges. Jung had a beautiful metaphor for this. The person isn't the flame that lights you. They're the space that lets you remember you were already burning. They don't create your authenticity. They simply make it possible for it to rise to the surface. This might show up in small but powerful ways. Maybe your humor becomes sharper with them. Maybe your creativity flows differently. Maybe parts of your personality that felt out of place before suddenly make perfect sense in this dynamic. The difference is subtle, but it's everything. In connections built on mutual wounding, you feel complete because the other fills your gaps. But in archetypal soul-level connections, you feel expanded because they activate your latent potential. You often feel like you've come home emotionally, like you can finally exhale and be met fully. There's no need to dim your weirdness, hold back your intensity, or edit your essence. That mutual ignition of authenticity is one of the clearest signs that two people share a resonance deeper than superficial compatibility. It's like your frequencies harmonize in a way that lets you both play your truest note. If this person consistently brings you closer to your real self, if they wake up parts of you you'd forgotten existed, and if vulnerability feels natural rather than risky, then the universe might be showing you that your connection is a space of mutual becoming. You heard each other. Deeply. Words were said, boundaries were crossed, trust was broken. In most relationships that would have been the end. But something unexplainable happens. Instead of lingering bitterness, the pain gradually softens into compassion. It's not that you forget, but you start to see the pain behind the actions. Sign number 10 is when forgiveness isn't just offered, it transforms. Jung described true forgiveness as a kind of emotional alchemy, turning lead into gold, pain into wisdom, fragmentation into wholeness. Surface-level forgiveness is transactional. It's about fear of being alone or convenience. But real forgiveness is rooted in understanding that goes deeper than personality. It touches essence. You don't excuse what happened, but you see the wounded soul behind it. And this kind of forgiveness isn't weakness. It's spiritual power. It's an act of higher love. When two people can forgive each other at that depth, it means their bond reaches beyond ego into a dimension where compassion comes naturally. Jung observed that real forgiveness opens the door to true rebuilding. Not to return to how things were, but to build something stronger, more conscious. The crisis breaks the immature version of the relationship so that something more evolved can be born. This kind of forgiveness often comes with powerful insight. You begin to see the unconscious patterns that created the rupture in the first place. You recognize your own role, not with shame, but with clarity, and start choosing differently. After that kind of forgiveness, you're not the same. Being seen, flaws and all, and still being loved changes you. It creates a depth of intimacy that can't be reached without walking through fire together. If you can look at the worst in each other and still choose to stay, if your forgiveness leads to renewal rather than repetition, then maybe you've found a kind of love that turns even mistakes into the raw material for something extraordinary. Before she came into your life, everything felt like autopilot. Work, routine, shallow relationships, distractions to fill the time. But after she entered, especially during the most intense moments, you started asking different questions. Questions about meaning, about why you're here, about who you're really meant to become. And that's sign 11. When the relationship awakens your search for meaning. Jung believed that some connections act as catalysts for individuation, forcing us to confront existential questions we'd rather avoid. The presence of this person, especially the pain they sometimes bring, stirs a part of you that demands deeper answers about who you are and why you're here. This awakening is rarely comfortable. It's as if the relationship flipped a switch you didn't know existed, and now you can't settle for surface-level answers about life. You find yourself questioning your values, reevaluating beliefs, seeking out spiritual or philosophical frameworks that once seemed irrelevant. Jung went through this himself after profound relational ruptures. In fact, it was during his most emotionally turbulent times that he plunged into his own psyche and developed ideas that would forever shift our understanding of the human mind. He documented this inner exploration in the Red Book, filled with dreams, visions, and insights that emerged during these relational crises. Relational pain, when faced consciously, can become the most powerful fuel for spiritual awakening. It's as if suffering cracks open the ego's armor, allowing the soul to finally speak. The question shifts from, how do I suffer less, to, what is this pain trying to teach me? And often, the quest this relationship sparks goes beyond the relationship itself. You might find yourself drawn to unfamiliar fields of study, noticing life patterns you'd never questioned before, or developing a relationship with your own inner depths that you didn't know was possible. If this person, and especially the challenges you've shared, has forced you to seek deeper truths about existence, if being with them made it impossible to keep living on autopilot, if they've pushed you into questions you once avoided, then the universe might be using this connection as a gateway into your own individuation. Jung believed that some people come into our lives not to make us happy, but to make us wake up. And when a relationship consistently nudges you towards self-discovery and deeper purpose, even through pain, it could be a sign that it holds transformative power on your path to becoming who you truly are. Not every story that feels unfinished is a failure. Some connections exist in a space beyond fairy tale endings or clean breakups. There are relationships that plant seeds in invisible soil, and they keep growing, even when the external world can't yet support their full bloom. If you saw yourself in several of these signs, the universe might be gently whispering that this connection carries layers of meaning that haven't fully revealed themselves. It's not about clinging to something that needs to be released. It's about honoring the wisdom that recognizes when a bond transcends easy explanations. Jung taught that individuation, becoming our whole, true self, rarely unfolds in a straight line, or within the timelines our egos prefer. Some relationships are intensive laboratories where the deepest parts of the psyche are stirred and reshaped. And maybe the real question isn't whether you should stay or go, but how fully you're willing to integrate what this person reflects about you. If this connection still stirs your soul, if you continue to catalyze growth in each other, if the magnetism defies logic and practical challenges, maybe it still has sacred work to do in your life. The universe could be asking for patience with a process that unfolds on timelines far beyond our immediate desires. The real question isn't, should I give up or keep trying? But how can I honor this connection in a way that serves both of our growth, no matter what form it ends up taking? Sometimes that means staying and doing the work together. Other times, it means loving enough to let go, trusting that if it's meant to be, it will return in the right form, at the right time, when both of you are ready to sustain what you share. If you've watched this far and felt like the universe is speaking to you through these signs, drop a comment below. I trust the perfect timing of the universe. Your voice in the comments helps this message reach more people who need to hear it. And if this video touched your heart, and you'd like to support our work in continuing to bring meaningful content about psychology and relationships, consider tapping the thanks button below. Your contribution helps this channel grow and reach even more souls on the path of self-discovery. Thank you for being here. See you in the next video.